everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our most excellent, righteous international friends, joining us as we get together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And you know, if Robert Meyer Burnett's face is on a carton of milk, you know it's never going bad. Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, how you doing, sir?
Well, wait, wouldn't that mean I've been disappeared and nobody knows where I am?
It means you're sealing in the goodness. You're sealing in the flavor. You know, that's I tend to, maybe I didn't think that one through all that well. Hey, listen, before we started the show, I was pointing out, I said, what's that shirt? Because that one I didn't recognize, but then I felt stupid that I didn't recognize it. What's that shirt you got on there today?
Dude, my favorite. Well, it's not my favorite Gundam series because I've always told people I'm a Universal Century kind of guy, but Gundam Wing Gundam. Actually, this is from Endless Waltz. Oh, no, it's not. But I love Gundam Wing's mobile suits. And this is one of these shirts that pops up on Facebook, you know, these unlicensed geek shirts. And I looked at this one, I'm like, ooh, click. I mean, they suck me right in. And when you buy one, then you get all kinds of these things dropped on you. Every time I buy a Baby Yoda Jameson shirt, I get one of these, but this I had to get. NASA, but meets Gundam Wing. Come on, man.
It looks all kinds of awesome. I got to tell you, it's a nice looking shirt. I'm going to have to invest in something like that.
Look at that. Look at this goodness.
It's a lot of goodness. Hey, guys, listen, first of all, many thanks to many of you guys who sent happy birthday wishes to my wife yesterday. She got flooded with happy birthday wishes from John Campea Show viewers, so thank you guys very much for that. We appreciate that. And listen, guys, we got a whole hell of a lot of stuff to talk about here today. A Quiet Place finally gets a new release date, and it's still in 2020, and it's not all that far away, thank goodness. Not unexpectedly, Top Gun gets its date moved. We're going to talk about what ComicCon has come out and said they're still planning on moving forward. We're going to talk about what some of the repercussions of that may or may not be. That and a few things more. But before we get to that stuff, we got a couple things to talk about off the top, and we're going to start with this. One of the shows that I was really intrigued about when it first got announced was the DC streaming service's Titans series. And I got really excited when I found out a whole ton of it was shot in my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Because Rob, I was watching the first episode of Titans, and it's got this city street, and I was like, that kind of looks like home a little bit. And then there's this city bus that goes by that I'm like, I swear to God, that's a Hamilton bus. And I jump online and say, where did they shoot Titans? And sure enough, in my home city of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And everybody told me to check it out, and I went and checked it out, and I got to tell you, I didn't like it all that much. Listen, I know a lot of people love it, and that's great. I celebrate that. I'm not going to try to talk anybody out of liking it. That's awesome if you do. I was hoping to like it, but it didn't really quite work for me, so I never got around to season 2. But the show has its fans, man. The show has its fans, and those fans are going to get excited because during a online Q&A session, one of the producers and directors of the Titan series is saying that Titan season 3, they're going to introduce a fan favorite, Barbara Gordon, a.k.a. Batgirl, a.k.a. Oracle, a.k.a. Slim Shady. Barbara Gordon is coming to the Titan series. And they're saying that people who are fans of Titans aren't even going to have to wait that long. From what I understand and what I'm reading, they're saying this character is actually going to appear in episode 1 of season 3 of Titans. So that's going to get a lot of people talking. Rob, I was looking forward to it. It didn't work for me like the other DC streaming service show, Doom Patrol, which I am psychotically in love with. I love that show. Titans didn't work for me as much, but a lot of people are into it. What do you think about the addition of a Barbara Gordon character? Do you think that can help the show? And do you think the fans of the show are going to really look forward to her addition?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, look, if she's Oracle, like however they're going to do that, I think it could only be a good thing. I think that, like you, I was really hoping that the Titans show would hark back more to the original Wolfman and Perez new Teen Titans run. It was sort of a Titans revamp in the beginning of the 80s. And I really loved the team, but also the familial aspects of it. I wanted Titans to be the Friday Night Lights of superhero shows. Not that they're going to play football, but just the emphasis on character development and interpersonal relationships in addition to the superhero action. And one of the things that disappointed me about Titans was the tone. I mean, this let's go uber dark, and the Titans to me weren't that way. You could still deal with subject. I mean, again, that was my own interpretation. That's why I fell in love with the Titans. They became my favorite superhero team when I was younger, and I just felt that the tone of it, they did that whole we've got to be cool and dark, but I just wanted something a little different. But still, if the first season I wasn't that impressed by, but I continue to watch it because it's the Titans, and I do like some of the actors that play the characters. And look, anything they can do, as long as they keep improving the show, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and again, it's a show I gave up on after season 1. I didn't bother watching season 2, but I know a lot of the fans who do like this show are going to be excited about this, and that's good news for them. So the question is for you guys. Are you one of those people that watches Titans? If so, are you excited about this news, or do you think, I don't see how this character fits in with what this show is? How do you feel about it? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on to the next off the top, and this is a significantly big one. One of the projects, I'll use the word projects, that a number of people were really excited about when it comes to the Star Wars universe was that of Obi-Wan. Now, for a long time, it looked like they were going to do an Obi-Wan movie, which, at first I was not really all for because I'm tired of constantly retreading over ground. We know Obi-Wan. Yes, we know Boba Fett. Yes, we know. I don't want a young Yoda show. Yeah, I don't want a young Jabba the Hutt show. Like, why do we keep making the Star Wars universe smaller and smaller and smaller? Let's expand. But, over the course of a couple of years, a lot of the fans kept writing in some really, really good points to me about why something like an Obi-Wan series, even though it's a character we already know, could still feel new and fresh and exciting. And they started to get me on board with it. And I started to get a little bit excited about it. Then they apparently brought on a director to do a movie, and then it all changed. We didn't hear anything. And then at D23, Kathleen Kennedy got on stage, and out came Ewan McGregor, and they announced that an Obi-Wan Kenobi series was indeed coming to Disney Plus, which got a lot of people excited. Then, a short time ago, we found out the wheels came off, and it kind of got postponed and delayed. They made the public statement that they're just tinkering with the things. Apparently, it was much more serious than that. It was more than just tinkering the script. Apparently, it came down to it that they weren't happy with the script, what have you, and everything has been quiet for long enough that some people started to speculate, like you and I did, Rob, that, hey, maybe they're retooling it and going back to the idea of a movie. Maybe. Some people started to think this thing is done. It's dead. They're because it's gone so long without anything. Well, apparently neither is true. Things are moving again with Obi-Wan Kenobi. According to a report in Variety, Obi-Wan Kenobi is now moving forward again. They just brought in a brand new writer in Joby Harold, who has written the script to the new upcoming Zack Snyder zombie film that's going to be coming up on Netflix. Anyway, this is what the report reads. Joby Harold has been tapped to write the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series at Disney Plus. Harold takes over the writing, the highly anticipated series from Hossein Amini, who left the project back in January. This would mark Harold's first time writing for a television series. He most recently executive produced John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum and is also writing the script for Zack Snyder's film Army of the Dead. He was one of the two writers alongside James Vanderbilt, who was selected to develop a new take on the Transformers franchise for Paramount. So there you have it, Rob and guys. Obi-Wan Kenobi is number one, not moving to the big screen, which I was kind of maybe speculating they would, kind of hoping they would too, but whatever.
Me too.
But more importantly, the project's not dead. It's not dead. They are up and moving again. Rob, you hear this report. Is this good news for people who are looking forward to this series, or is this really, nothing to get too excited about? How do you feel about it?
No, I think it is pretty exciting. And also, I would say that I'd heard or read somewhere that the scripts were similar to like The Mandalorian, like the whole feel of the show might have been a little too similar. So they wanted to retool it and take it in a different direction, which I can understand, especially if they're going to utilize the stagecraft technology. They're going to want to do something different with it. So, it makes sense. It's encouraging that you've got Ewan McGregor. This is my problem. You've got Ewan McGregor, who everybody wants to see play Obi-Wan again. You would think with all the development time that this would be ready to go. They would have this thing on the launch pad. But if they don't think it's perfect, it is kind of reassuring that they're going to still move forward but retool it a bit.
Yeah, and the other good thing here too is Well, it all depends. I can't get excited or not excited about this particular dude. I don't know how influential he was or wasn't on John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, which I loved, but I have no idea how influential he was in that movie. I also haven't seen the new Zack Snyder, although I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen the new Zack Snyder zombie movie, so I don't know whether to get excited about that. The one thing I question, and for some reason her name is freezing on me, the director of the series, the woman who's going to be...
Deborah Chow.
Deborah Chow, good Canadian girl, by the way. Deborah Chow, who is directing it, directed, in my opinion, the best 2 episodes of the Mandalorian series. And her resume is extensive. This girl has done some impressive work. My only thing is, how much authority is she being giving oversight to the writer? That's my only thing. Because if she's being like kept out of it, then this sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. As long as she's being given, normally on a television series, the writers are in charge and the directors come in episode to episode. In movies, the director's in charge, the writers just write the script. This is a unique situation though, because unlike most television series, like 95% of them, where just every episode is directed by somebody different, Obi-Wan, the entire series is going to be directed by her. She's actually directing the whole show. And so if that's the case, I want to make sure, I just want to know, I want somebody to come out and say that she's going to have oversight on this and have final say, because if she does, great. If not, it becomes worrisome to me. But Rob, at this point, this is kind of a unique, it's not unheard of. We've seen other television series have one person direct, although it's rare.
Right, although it's becoming... Oh, sorry.
It's becoming more. I was just going to ask you, how much do you think this shifts the power balance between writers and directors? Because normally on a television show, it's the writers. The writers are in charge of the show, blah, blah. With Deborah Chow directing the whole thing, how do you see that balance moving, if at all?
Well, television is a writer-producer's medium, and it's always been said that directors are simply traffic cops, although I don't believe that. I think look no further than one of the great developing talents in television is Jason Bateman. He's both an executive producer and he directs a lot of Ozark episodes in addition to starring in them. And I think Ozark, as it goes along, has a great cinematic look to it. But while they'll get the scripts, the scripts are going to have to be approved by Disney before Deborah Chow even gets to them. But I think that you're going to see more and more directorial influence in these limited shows. We certainly saw that with Cary Fukunaga and True Detective Season 1, where he directed all the episodes. A show that doesn't get nearly enough credit is Torchwood Season 3. That was a 5-episode series, and I believe they were all directed by Euros Lyn, and they're one of the most exciting 5 hours of science fiction television I've ever seen. So I think it's going to be a new trend. Because, I think it would help in the development process to have a director giving input, especially a director who's already worked with that stagecraft technology and knows what the limitations of it are. If a writer knows, they can write to the technology that they're using. And I think that's really important. So I think what you're going to see is a more synergistic relationship between directors and writer-producers on these kind of limited shows. And it's only going to make those shows better, I think. So I would imagine she will be weighing in, but probably not until, they're going to have to do a development writing process before. I think in terms of how TV works, it might gum up the works, but once the scripts are approved, then Deborah Chow can come in and work with the writer to sort of craft those the episodes to the technology they're going to have available to them, which I think is going to make for a better show.
It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. Okay, guys, question here for you is, I got to admit, I'm excited about Obi-Wan getting back on track again, even though for the longest time I wasn't that interested in it. You guys talked me into being interested in it. I think this is positive. What do you guys think of this right now? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select the main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, you see, it's really rather simple. You guys come up with the main topics by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Alton Wang, who writes, HBO has act of social distancing by making 500 hours of programming available free for a limited time under the heading to get people to stay home. And I know you said that it does not cost Warner Brothers too much money. They should release the Snyder Cut. Do companies have a moral obligation to release free content? All right, that comes into us from Alton Wang. It's an interesting question. But getting first to the heart of the issue here, the main thing here is that HBO has decided to, under the banner of, hey, let's encourage people to stay at home, give them some even more entertainment. They're making more than 500 hours of their prime content available for free starting today. You do not need an HBO account. You don't need to sign up for it. Starting today, a lot of the content on HBO is free. This comes to us from Variety. The list of free programming includes, it's not just the little table scraps. It includes every episode of 9 HBO series, The Sopranos, which, by the way, if you have not started watching The Sopranos, this is a good time to binge and get caught up on that classic. Anyway, Veep, Succession, 6 Feet Under, The Wire, Ballers, Barry, Silicon Valley, and True Blood, all major shows. Also streaming for free are 20 Warner Brothers movies on HBO. Currently cataloging include Pokemon Detective Pikachu, The Lego Movie 2, the second part, and Crazy Stupid Love. By the way, I love that movie. I love Crazy Stupid Love. Anyway, and 10 HBO documentaries and docuseries, including McMillions, which is really popular right now, and The Case Against Adnan Syed. So, and which is a huge, that was, for those of you who don't know what the Adnan Syed thing, that's the podcast phenom for, what was the name of the podcast again? That was all about the case of Adnan. It was like, it was the most popular podcast in the world. They got everybody Serial. I think it was called Serial.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that was a follow-up documentary on that. So HBO releasing a whole bunch of content for free. Listen, I'll tell you what, I think this is a tremendous idea. And I think it's a tremendous idea for two different things, because it is a win-win. On the one hand, it's tremendous that it helps out. A lot of people stuck at home voluntarily, which is great. Everybody doing their part to stay at home, give them more entertainment while being at home, give them more incentive to be at home. That's great. And them doing their part to do that. But also it's a win on the other side, Rob, because this is good for business too. This is a great opportunity for HBO to come out and say, hey guys, come check out our shows. Look at what we have. This is just a taste of the type of quality programming, at least this is from HBO's point of view, the type of quality programming we have in HBO, and that could be good for them later down the line. So it's one of those great situations where it is indeed a win-win. The question, though, is, do we then feel that these types of services have a moral obligation to provide content for free to people? I very hesitantly, that type of a question always gives me pause. Because here's the thing, Rob, as human beings, I've mentioned this before, but as human beings, you know this, dude, we are all experts on what other people's moral obligations are. We're all complete world-class experts on what other people's moral obligations should be. So I would say no. It is not the moral obligation of streaming services to provide their content for free any more than it is your moral obligation at home to go and take 10% of whatever money you have in your bank account and go give it to somebody less fortunate. It would be really cool for you to do. It'd be very admirable of you to do, but it is not your moral obligation to do. Nor should you be frowned upon or looked down upon if you don't do it. And I think we all have different sets of criteria when judging other people. We don't want to apply those things to ourselves, but judging other people. But listen, it doesn't, just because it's not a moral obligation, doesn't take away from the fact that I think it's a good idea. It's good for society. It's good for them as a business moving forward, because at some point, Rob, this whole mess we're in is going to be put behind us, and there's going to be business getting back relatively to normal, and having done something like that's going to be good for their business. So I don't see a downside to this. I think this is great, but I fall short of saying I think it's a moral obligation for them to provide that for people. Anyway, Rob, this is an interesting story from a lot of different angles. How do you look at it?
Well, I think all the lessons anyone needs to learn in life are in the Godfather movies, to be honest. And in Godfather 3, a movie that The Sopranos, a character on The Sopranos said was just misunderstood. I think when Michael Corleone gets up and he said, helping your fellow mankind is always profitable. And I think in the long run, when companies do things like this that they have no obligation to do, when they open up, look, HBO wants to make money. HBO got to eat, John. And I understand that. And they need money to make the great shows that they make. They're not making low-budget local cable access shows. They're making internationally renowned shows that are the best of the best. However, when they do something like this in a time of need, when people are home, they're looking to be entertained. I mean, if you haven't seen The Wire, now you can see it. I think this is good business, and it's something people will remember. You know, in the future, maybe people will see HBO shows and be like, they've never had HBO. They didn't think they needed it unless Game of Thrones was on. And they'll be like, wow, there's a lot of great stuff I've missed. And HBO, when I was sitting at home, they came to me and they said, look, everybody knows they're a business. Everybody knows they want more subscribers. But here was HBO doing something they didn't have to do. You know, and they're not saying, we'll give you free stuff as long as you subscribe later. No, they're leaving that up to you, but they're giving you free programming, a lot of great free programming, some of the best free programming. And I think it's good business because, you know, not everything is about the next fiscal quarter and the bottom line. And we need to start thinking that way. And maybe our planet as a whole, the whole human species will learn from this and be like, you know what? We've just been given a new lease on life by the landlord, as Roy Scheider said at the end of 2010, that we don't have to lead our lives the way we've been doing. And this is, I think, this whole experience ultimately will be a wake-up call, how to do better business, how to be better neighbors, how to be more mindful of just those around us, and how to be more careful of ourselves and take care of ourselves better. So I think HBO is one of the many companies that see this, and they're trying to do whatever they can that's in their power. They provide programming. That's what they do. They're giving people some free programming for a while, and I think kudos to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's well said. Guys, the question here for you is this. What do you think about this move by HBO to provide this content for free? Do you think streaming companies like that should have a moral obligation to give out their wares for free at this point? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Michael Lemeza, who writes, greetings, John from Toronto, from my own stomping grounds. Been a big fan since the Collider video era. A Quiet Place 2 just got a new release date of Friday, September the 4th, right in Labor Day weekend. This does not seem like a good sign since very few people go to the movies on this long weekend. To begin with, what are your thoughts on the new date, and do you think it will stay on this release date? All right, thanks a lot for sending in the question, man. And hot damn, my most anticipated movie of the year has a release date again. Now listen, I totally understood why they had to pull Quiet Place 2 off its release date, because it was supposed to be in theaters right now. But what they did was when they pulled it off the release date, they gave it that nebulous, to be determined sort of thing. So I didn't know if we were going to have to wait a year for this thing to come out. I didn't know if this was going to come out in late 2021 or for whatever reason. But now they have pointed out that we've got Quiet Place 2 has set its date, and it's only pushed back to September, which I think is great. September 4th, 2020 is the new release date. And listen, Rob, I'm excited for this movie for a couple of reasons. Number one, because of course, the first one was my favorite movie of the year it came out. The first one was my absolute favorite movie of the year that it came out. Secondly, the trailers for this one, I thought have been fantastic. I thought they've been exciting. They captured the feel of the first one. They were terrifying, all captured in that little thing. And who doesn't want to see Emily Blunt back in these things? And the kids in it were great. And Cillian Murphy is fantastic and whatever. Wonderful. As far as the whole notion, though, of that, that release date, that weekend isn't necessarily a good weekend. I think all bets are off right now as far as what is normal this year. What is normal this year doesn't apply. And I think that by the time the movie theaters get back up and running again, and I think there's a chance that theaters may be open again late July, whatever, and then they're going to need time to ramp up. by the time September rolls around, I think you're going to see a really huge hunger in a lot of people to be really getting back into the flow of quote unquote regular life. Listen, anything can happen in the next month or two. We don't know. I'm just saying theoretically speaking. So theoretically speaking. And so maybe there are some years where that, but basically it's never a bad idea to have a release date on a long weekend generally. And I think this is great. I didn't want to see it pushed as far as December into 2021. So I'm personally very, very excited about this. Rob, you hear about the release date now being given to this movie. Excited, sure, but maybe should they have put it on a different date, even if it meant pushing it later, or do you think this is a good one for them right now?
Well, I think you got to start somewhere, and I have to say, John, you and I were both pretty agog over these trailers. I mean, this movie, as far as sequels go, I mean, this looks like the Aliens to the first movie's Alien. And I want to see this stuff. I mean, this looks like some total delicious nougaty-filled goodness that movie fans across the world want to see. And I think that absolutely, to know that we now have another date to look forward to. I mean, I've spent my life, John, since I was a kid, knowing when a movie comes out. I mean, I had a calendar on my bedroom door counting down the days to Star Trek: The Motion Picture's release date. You know, I changed the number every day for like a year. So waiting for things and knowing what days they come out is kind of something I've built into my own DNA with CRISPR. And I really want to know these things. I mean, now we got a new date for Top Gun. We got a new date for Justice for Han, which is now the new name for, the Furious Saga, the Fast Saga. No, it's just Justice for Han. That's coming out. We know when that's coming out. We know when Top Gun 2 is coming out. I'm just very excited now. That the joy that I look forward to, I know when it's coming, and I'm hoping that the world will be back to normal by then.
Yeah, and for me, you know what? It's just, look, I'm not pretending we are on the brink of this whole thing being behind us. I'm not pretending that at all. But I just gotta say, it feels really cool talking about movies getting new release dates. And
Yep.
instead of the only thing talking about, it's like the next round of movies that have been pulled. And it's kind of fun to say, hey, we got a new release date for this one. And whatever, I'm very excited. Doesn't mean I'm pretending the problems aren't still there. They are still there. I'm just saying it feels kind of good to talk about that. Question here is, guys, how excited are you? Maybe you're not even excited all that much about Quiet Place 2. Maybe you didn't like the first one all that much. I loved it, but maybe you didn't. What do you think about the new September 4th release date? I think it's great, but maybe you're not thinking it that so sure. Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Gareth Brownlee, who writes, "Hey, John, I had the great pleasure of meeting you once at a meet and greet you did at ComicCon with some of your crew." Oh, thank you so much, Gareth, for coming out to that. I appreciate that. It was the first ComicCon I had attended and had a great time. I was planning on going to the one this year as well. Did you see ComicCon is saying they're still planning on going ahead? What if no studios want to go? Is it still worth doing if none of the big Hall H personalities go this year? Thanks. All right. Thanks a lot for sending in that question, Gareth. And there are actually a couple of big things to talk about in that email that you sent in. We're going to get to the thing about should they move forward if the studios aren't there. That's secondary for now. But let's go over to this. Yes, Comic-Con has basically put out a statement that says, for now, they're still moving ahead with Comic-Con that comes in late July. Now, of course, we're just at the beginning of April, May, June, July. It's at the end of July. So over, 3.5 months away. This thing is supposed to be, and they're saying they're still moving forward. This comes to us from the folks at Comic-Con who wrote the following. To our amazing Comic-Con and WonderCon fans, we understand how difficult the current climate has been for all of us and appreciate your continued support through these trying times. No one is as hopeful as we are that we will be able to celebrate San Diego Comic-Con 2020 together come July. As we continue to monitor the situation with local authorities, we will post updates on our social channels. Until then, remember, a hero is an ordinary individual who finds strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. And that, of course, is a quote from the great Christopher Reeve that he gave us. So basically, the basic message they gave and other things as well as this is that they are currently planning to move ahead. That means that right now, although they're doing it, practicing social distancing, Their staff and their crew, and I know some of them, are currently still doing their jobs. They're still making schedules. They're still laying out floor plans. They're still coordinating with hotels. They are still doing everything they would do if Comic-Con was indeed 100% moving ahead. That's what they're doing right now. So there's that. But obviously they say we're still completely in conversation with the health officials and all that kind of stuff. And that could change. So we'll see what happens. I personally think it is the right thing to do right now to keep moving forward with preparations. I just think that makes sense. You keep moving forward with the preparations. There's no point in not doing the preparations and pulling the plug on it at this point. There's still a lot, Rob, you've pointed out yourself several times. We're going to find out a lot more in the next 4 weeks. The next 4 weeks are going to be very, very telling. That doesn't mean July will be open for business, doesn't mean it won't, but I don't see there being any need to not move forward with your preparations at this time. But they got to be ready to pull the plug. And that's the thing. And I think from their message, that's the message I'm hearing from them, is that they are being prepared to pull the plug if they need to. They're still talking to government officials. They're talking to health officials. And of course, come July, it might not even be their choice. Like if they're still in the state of California, hey, no gatherings of 10 or more people rule in effect, well, then they can't do it no matter what. But Rob, just for fun and just for the sake of the discussion, all right, let's for a moment assume that the government says, okay, be careful, be smart, but the limitations are lifted. Comic-Con can move forward if they wish, and they feel the government, state officials, health officials will say, okay, you're good to move forward, but, encourage your attendees to be smart. No big, massive public orgies or anything like that, but keep it smart. And so it's all clear. Let's assume that for a second, just for the sake of the discussion, okay? Let's say they are permitted to move forward, but they find out the studios are not going yet this year. The studios, TV networks, they just decide, you know what, we're going to play it safe for one more year and we're not going to go. Should Comic-Con still move forward if that's the case? And I would say an emphatic hell yes. Hell yes. And here's why. Some people may want to point out, understandably so, that John, the big Hall H events is one of the big things that happens there, and having the movie personalities there and blah, blah, blah. And you're not wrong. That's true. When you think Comic-Con, a lot of people think Hall H. I absolutely agree. But the reality is this. About 130 to 150,000 people, some people say it's a much higher number than that, go to San Diego every year for Comic-Con. Do you know how many people actually fit inside Hall H? Tops, 6,000. Tops. Yet under 5% of the people who go to Comic-Con can ever actually step foot inside Hall H. I would contend and argue that the vast majority of people who go to Comic-Con don't go for Hall H. The vast majority of people who go to Comic-Con do not go there to go to the movie panels. Yes, they're a big deal, and a lot of people do. And they'll camp out overnight and all that kind of stuff. Yes, but they represent a finite number of the people who actually go to Comic-Con. Rob, I can't even tell you right now. I can't tell you off the top of my head how many years it's been since I stepped foot in Hall H. The majority of people go to Comic-Con for Comic-Con. They go to be surrounded by fellow fans. They go for the celebration. They go to see all the cool stuff laid out on the floor. They go to see everybody dressed up in cosplay. They go to see 100,000 or more of their fellow nerds and geeks geeking out with them and celebrating pop culture with them at the same time. Rob, I've often called Comic-Con, the main reason I go, it's a spiritual event for me. Because I say there's something good for the soul. There's something good for the soul when you're in an environment with 100,000 people and everybody's just happy and everybody's having a good time and everybody's celebrating. You look around at every face you see and you can tell this is something all these people have been planning for an entire year to be
or
at.
many years
To try to plan and save up. And maybe this year they got lucky and won a lottery and were able to win the hotel lottery and actually got a hotel room, which is still why they need to move San Diego or Comic-Con to Las Vegas. But that's another topic for another time. So Yes, you move forward. If the go-ahead is given, and if the health officials all say you can go and hold an event, if the studios don't go, unfortunate. But yeah, you don't let that stop you. And again, remember, we're talking here in a theoretical construct that the government and health authorities say, yeah, you're clear to go. It's okay to do it. If the studios still don't go, I say you still do it. Rob, two different questions here. What do you think about Comic-Con putting out their statement saying, hey, we're still moving forward with our planning right now, but we're going to keep an eye on the situation? And secondly, to the viewer's question, let's say everything is given the clear and go ahead and do it, but the studios don't go. Is that enough to pull the plug on it, or do you think you still move forward and do this event?
Well, I mean, so much of the attraction of Comic-Con is the fact that it's not just the studios, it's every TV show. The celebrity count at Comic-Con is huge. And then also, you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people over the course of 4 days that pack into that convention center. And if we're totally rid of the disease and there's no chance of flare-ups or a second wave or something, I would say fine. But as everyone knows, Comic-Con, it's hot, it's San Diego, it's not exactly the most hygienical place in the world to begin with. But coming off of a pandemic, I think you have to err on the side of caution. And it really depends where we're at, but I just can't see, I think, look, Comic-Con takes a lot of planning, and they've been making the show better and better and better every year. And I just think that I just can't see it happening. But for them, it's like a gigantic, as far as conventions go, it's the Titanic of conventions. And if there is an iceberg, it's going to take them a long time to turn that ship around. So whether they're going to move it or scrub it, I mean, they take a huge hit economically, and so does the city of San Diego. So I think they want to hold on to hope they can keep this convention going as long as possible. But I think at some point, we'll see where the nation goes. But in the next 30 days, they're going to have to make a call. And I think they're going to have to either move it, which I don't know if they can, or just scrub it for the year and eat the loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. In the next 30 days, they'll need to make a decision. If they do pull it, I think you can move it. Because, listen, the weather in San Diego is always moderate. I mean, it's great weather there. I think you try to move it, although it would be a logistical nightmare. But, Rob, let's get to the viewer's question, though. If, let's say, let's create a theoretical situation here where the health officials all say, you know what, you're clear to go ahead and have a conference like this end of July. But the studios decide to pull out for this year. What do you say, if you're one of the organizers and one of the executives over at Comic-Con, what do you do in a situation like that? Do you move forward or do you pull the plug?
Well, look, if they're going to move forward and they think it's okay, I think the studios are in a position where they need to generate as much excitement for their product as possible. And Comic-Con is a way to flood, as you know, everything the studios roll out at Comic-Con. There's 100,000 stories on the web. It's the best free publicity now in our age of social media that I mean, you bring out, Tom Cruise has already gone to Comic-Con to promote Top Gun. Top Gun will be done. They can show maybe a 20-minute reel. Hell, they could show the movie. Well, I talk about generating. If they love this movie, who wouldn't want to see the very first show, the world premiere of Top Gun in San Diego at Comic-Con, out on that beach, where they can show movies? Tom, they turn it into a worldwide event. The studios would be foolish not to go and launch all the movies that they passed up, because Justice for Han is done. Top Gun is done. A Quiet Place 2 is done. And can you imagine? I mean, they could use this as a platform to let's get people going back to the movies. Let's get people excited about the movie theater experience again. They would be foolish not to utilize this as a great PR move.
I agree. Question here is, guys, for you. Let's say, argument's sake, it's a total theoretical, but let's say we get to July, health officials say, hey, you're clear to move ahead, but the studios decide not to go. If you're Comic-Con, do you still move ahead without the studios, Or do you say, hey, without them, we've lost our main appeal? What do you do there? It's an interesting thought. And also, what do you think about the fact that they're still moving ahead with preparations at this point? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Michael Hines, who writes, hey, John, how are you guys? We're doing well, Michael. Thank you for asking. I just heard that Top Gun Maverick has just been pushed back from June 26th to December 23rd. What are your thoughts on this? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for that, Michael. And yep, Rob, you called the other day. No big surprise to a lot of people that, of course, we were just waiting for when they were going to announce the moving of Top Gun. The question was going to become, when they do announce the moving of Top Gun, is it going to be just moved, period, and we'll tell you a release date sometime in a few months, or are they going to give it a date? They have given it a date, and they've given it a big date. They've given it December 23rd, so it's not moving all that much, relatively speaking, to a lot of other films. Still being pushed back further than Quiet Place, but still, December 23rd is prime real estate for a big movie to be released. So we've got that date. Rob, you've heard about the move. Number one, how are you feeling? I know you were expecting it. But how's your heart feeling that you're going to have to wait longer now for Top Gun? And what do you think about a December 23rd release date?
Well, right now, all movie theaters are the danger zone, John. So I don't think that Top Gun 2 should be going on a highway to any danger zone right now. So I think it's, as much as I want to see it, I think moving it into the holiday season, and they moved off that Chris Pratt movie, like the Forever War. It's not the Forever War. It's the Tomorrow War. They moved that Chris Pratt big sci-fi movie that I really wanted to see off their holiday date, replacing it with Top Gun. And I think what a great time. What a great Christmas present for the world, John, than Top Gun 2 or Maverick Top Gun 2 or what is it? Is it Maverick Top Gun 2? Is that the full title? I think it's just
Top Gun. I don't know. Top Gun 2 Electric
Maverick.
Boogaloo.
Top Guns. I think that I think it's a good move. It's an exciting move. It's the kind of move that gets everybody excited for the holiday season, assuming we can all go back to the movie theaters. Man, count me in. I think it's a smart move. I think it's the right move. I'm glad they didn't move it into 2021. That we do have something to look forward to, seeing that there's no Star Wars movie coming out. This is kind of like Star Wars, but different. So I'm very excited.
Star Wars, but different. Now, adding to the intrigue of this date, though, listen to this. Within a 7-day window, now these are the movies that are going to be opening up within that 7-day window. Steven Spielberg's West Side Story.
Can't wait.
Denis Villeneuve's Dune.
Woo!
Coming to America 2.
Got my soul glow.
Top Gun Maverick, the quote-unquote live-action Tom and Jerry movie, and The Croods 2. And before you scoff at that, the first one made a stupid amount of money. So all within 1 week, we're going to have, on December 18th opening, Steven Spielberg's new film, West Side Story, Dune, Coming to America 2, Top Gun Maverick now, The Croods, and live-action Tom and Jerry. Now, you could say overcrowded, but again, this is prime holiday season movie going. There's a lot of business to go around. And again, like I said earlier, I feel like this year, Rob, is a year where normal doesn't apply. And I don't think this Christmas season, I think, the recovery is still going to be in full swing. I really do. I think people are going to be so excited about being out and about again. Even if we get back out again in July or August, I think December comes, I think we're still celebrating it. And really, even though those are a lot of big movies, let's be honest here. Coming to America 2 is not going to be an $800 million movie.
No.
It's just not. That's fine. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be a big success. Dune, Rob, I think you and I have both talked about how we're as excited as we are about it, and as good as it looks like it could be, it's not going to be a $1 billion film. So really, when you look at it, it's not like a Christmas a couple years ago where it looked like you had like 3 or 4 potential $1 billion films all opening up within like a 10-day window. This seems a little bit different. So I think it still works. Rob, when you look at that release schedule, Do you think it's a little overcrowded? Or do you think this is still manageable, even moving a Top Gun 2 into it? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's funny about Top Gun 2. Like, say you're sitting in West Side Story, right? And suddenly the song comes up, when you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. And when you leave, you're going to be like, oh, jets. I'm going to go see Top Gun 2. Anyway, I think that's good marketing. But anyway, I think with that Christmas season, people are going to want to go to the movies. I think this kind of lineup, I mean, you got great comedy, great science fiction, great America rah-rah action. You've got a classic musical, the first musical ever made by Steven Spielberg, and anybody who loves the opening of Temple of Doom has been waiting for this since 1984, as I have. You're a song and dance man. We'll probably go see West Side Story together. I think it's a great lineup of films. It's really diverse in terms of what it offers to the movie-going public. Dude, count me in. I'm excited. I think it'll still do well, but as you know, this is another Murderer's Row, just like they had lined up for us, a year ago, and or a year and a half ago. It's a Murderer's Row, or 2 years ago when we had like Alita Battle Angel that got moved, and that Christmas season was rough. But I think people are going to want to go to the movies, man. And this is a great lineup of holiday films.
I agree. I think there's a lot of business. There's going to be a lot of business to go around. Like I'll even say this. I think because we're still in a time frame here, Rob, where we're going to see a few more movies get pushed. And I think there's going to be so much business to do in this particular Christmas season. I think it could even handle, let's say, one more high-profile film being dropped in there. I really do this year. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. I'm just excited, again, that they didn't just they pulled the date to some date to be determined. I'm glad that they pulled it, but gave it another distinct date. I think this December 23rd date is going to work out well for it. Guys, what do you think about it? Obviously, most of us are not surprised that it did get pushed, but what do you think about the new release date for Top Gun 2 and where it landed? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that stuff down and out of the way, as so many of us are quarantined at home and doing the social distancing thing, it's given us an opportunity to get caught up on either some classic films we've never watched, or maybe even some more recent films that nobody really paid enough attention to, some little hidden gems. And so Rob and I have been doing our movie recommendations of the day for things you might want to check out while you're hanging out at home doing the proper socially responsible social distancing thing. So Rob, we throw it over to you, sir. You've been dropping some great ones on us, including Shogun Assassins, which is amazing that you did that one. But what is your recommendation this week?
All right. As you know, I love my searing crime thrillers, and I had already recommended James Caan in Michael Mann's first theatrical feature, Thief. My next choice comes from 1985. It is peak 80s filmmaking, and it comes to us from director William Friedkin, the man who directed The French Connection and The Exorcist and Sorcerer. And as the ad line says, William Friedkin is back on the streets again with To Live and Die in L.A., one of the coolest movies of the 80s, starring a pre-CSI, a pre-Manhunter, William Peterson, who had a very small role in Thief, by the way, and Willem Dafoe. And William Peterson plays Richard Chance, a Secret Service agent who is on the trail of Willem Dafoe's Rick Masters, a counterfeiter in L.A., a counterfeiter with a love of having threesomes with women and painting. He's an artist, and he makes great counterfeit dollars, and it is about their... I guess in a way, it is a clash of titans. Richard Chance is going to take down Rick Masters. Rick Masters kills his partner, and this movie is a searing look at the mean streets of LA, not Beverly Hills. This movie takes place in San Pedro, on the asphalt jungles of LA, and like the not really beautiful places. Wang Chung, coming off their album Points on the Curve, does the score. Wang Chung, yes, who did Dance Hall Days. And I'm telling you, their awesome electronic rock score is amazing. And this movie is brutal. It is hard hitting. It is adult. William Peterson has never been better in this movie. I mean, he's so good. And Willem Dafoe, peak 80s, peak William Peterson. I mean, this movie has it's got one of the greatest car chases ever on the streets of LA, where they're driving the wrong way on a freeway. They've done things similar since then, but this movie is the granddaddy of all car chases. Robert Downey Sr. is in this movie. John Pankow is in this movie. Deborah Fuhr is in this movie. I mean, Steve James, the late great Steve James, one of my favorite black actors in 80s movies. He was in like American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff. He's in this movie. Willem Dafoe drives a black Ferrari, which is awesome. And there's nothing about this movie that I don't love. I've seen this movie 100 times. I even have a Polish movie poster for this movie hanging in my bedroom. The soundtrack to this movie, the song "To Live and Die in L.A." Wang Chung's song is great, and then the beginning, there's an assassination attempt against Ronald Reagan, and Willem. I don't want to tell you what happens, but I have such great love for this film. It opened in October of 1985. I drove 70 miles in from my college to see it at the King Cinema in downtown Seattle, and man, dude, I love this movie. I love this movie.
I think what you should, moving forward, I think what you should probably do is pick movies that you actually have some enthusiasm about. I think that's the object lesson here today. But I remember, when you wrote me last night, you texted me last night, I'm doing Live and Die in LA, man. I'm like, oh my, you can just see in the text that you were excited about doing this one.
This is one of these movies that made me want to move to Los Angeles. And I don't know what that says about me, because basically the city is a hard, mean place in this movie. But there's just something about it that I love. You know, a rule-breaking cop that's going to stop at nothing to bag his prey.
Which is perfect for the era. It was perfect stuff for the era.
And also, you know, this movie really is about, in a way, it's Los Angeles as hell. Like, there could be a reading that this movie is about two damned souls and they're in purgatory or something, if you want to look at it that way. And also, To Live and Die in LA has been sort of the mantra of my existence since I moved here.
But I remember the song, man, too. To Live and Die in LA.
Yep.
I mean,
great music video. The music video is actually directed by Friedkin, which you can see on YouTube, and it shows them recording the song. And Wang Chung is one of these unsung. I mean, everybody remembers Wang Chung Tonight or Dance Hall Days, but they did a lot of really, really cool instrumental tracks for the soundtrack of this movie, and some really interesting instruments and production. It's so really cool. And you know what happens when you're an officer of the law and your desire to gain revenge sort of corrupts your soul. And it's really, man, if you haven't seen this movie, it's so cool. And then you should tweet to William Friedkin that it's one of the greatest movies you've ever seen and that I sent you.
You know, it's funny because a couple of films have come up recently that, as you mentioned earlier, like one of the stars of the movie is William Peterson, who was, of course, probably best known now for CSI. He had such an incredible, that show ruled television for a lot of years. Yeah. Not really done a lot since. Hasn't really done a lot since. I'd like to see him make a big triumphant return. Well, anyway, Rob's pick today is Live and Die in LA. So I decided to go, knowing that was Rob's pick, I decided to go in a completely opposite direction. So, you know, Rob picked this amazing, hard-hitting, gritty, classic film. So I decided to go almost totally the opposite in every way. And my pick today, I decided to go in the direction of a little bit more modern, a little bit more charming, a little bit more a film you can sit down and watch with your significant other and your kid, and all of you could have a good time. Just a sweet little movie that really got no love at the box office. People enjoyed it, the few people that did, but most people did not go to see this movie whatsoever. And it was charming and heartfelt, and it was the type of movie that when you walked out of the theater, you just had a big smile on your face. And that movie for me that I'm recommending today, this is kind of a hidden gem, not an old classic, just a hidden gem of a film that came out 5 years ago in 2015. And today we're talking about the Taron Egerton, Hugh Jackman, based on the real story of Eddie Edwards. We're talking about Eddie the Eagle. When I was a kid in school, I remember all the adults talking, and even us as kids, we were all like, the Eddie the Eagle story just took over the world. This awkward, socially awkward, but completely charming dude from England in ski jumping. You know, it was just unheard of at the time, and it captured in as much, if not more so, Rob, than the Jamaican bobsled team did. But Eddie the Eagle captured the hearts and imaginations of a lot of people. It was the Calgary Olympics. So it was the year the Olympics were being held in Canada as well. And so they decided to make a movie out of this. And I thought, well, this is interesting. It's interesting they're going to try to do a movie out of this one. But I'm telling you, Taron Egerton, he does such a great job, because you see Taron Egerton. This is the movie that before Rocket Man made you go, oh my God, this kid's for real. Like, Taron Egerton's for real as an actor, because we knew him in Kingsman and all that kind of stuff. He can do that. But then he comes into Eddie the Eagle and plays a totally different kind of character. And he nails it. And because if he doesn't nail Eddie, and if he doesn't play this character in such a way that we instantly start to root for him, that we instantly are completely charmed by him, that we're not instantly wanting to get on his side, then this movie doesn't work. But he plays this awkward dude so brilliantly and beautifully, you'll forget that it's even Taron Egerton doing it. And then they brought in some big guns in Hugh Jackman to play his coach and all this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you what, the chemistry between these two guys in this movie is absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful chemistry and the relationship. And I'll tell you the other thing, I got choked up several times in the movies just seeing the relationship between Eddie and his parents. Were wonderful too. And then by the time you get into the Olympic scenes, you'd be audibly cheering in the audience. You're audibly cheering for him in the audience, even though if you read up on the history a little bit, you already know how it's going to turn out. This was not a top 5 movie of the year or anything like that, but what it was a sweet, charming, smile-inducing, heart-happy, just kind of thoroughly entertaining little movie. And it's the perfect kind of movie for me, that if you're quarantined at home, you're sitting around, you're trying to fight those quarantine blahs, those lockdown blahs. This is a perfect one, especially if you're quarantined with family or whatever. This is a perfect little movie that 95% of you guys haven't had a chance to see yet. That is just great to pop on, sit down, and just enjoy. And so 2 very, very different recommendations today, Rob. You going Live and Die in LA, which is awesome. I'm going Eddie the Eagle. 2 films for you guys to check out. Did you ever have a chance? Because I know a lot of people didn't, Rob. It came and went pretty quick. Did you have a chance to watch Eddie the Eagle?
I did. I caught up with it later, and I agree with you. This movie is a lot of fun. You know, I'm a skier. You know, I grew up skiing, and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of this film. It is truly a delightful movie, and I'm surprised. You know, I just think it has a terrible title. You know, it needed, like, what does that mean? And I mean, once you see the movie, you understand it's great, but I think it needed a title that was maybe perhaps less specific, something like Miracle, you know, or something like that. Or
To Soar with the Eagle?
Something like that. I mean, you know, something that, because Eddie the Eagle, I think it seemed like, what is this movie? You know, it needed a title that I think was more grandiose and maybe less specific.
Well, whatever the case may be, not a lot of people checked it out, but those that did seem to really like it. And I think you guys will too. Again, not like one of the best movies you're ever going to see, but just a perfect little film for the lockdown blahs to sit down, check out. I highly recommend you check out Eddie the Eagle. So there you go, guys. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we are now going to move into the live questions that you guys have been sending in. Now, of course, 2 different ways you can do that. One, the best way to do it is to use the tip link that you see in the top of the description of this video. You can send your questions that way. And by the way, you can use that tip link 24/7. And you can send them in even before the shows begin the night before, and yours will be one of the first questions answered. Or you can use the super chat feature on YouTube. And we are going to get to those live questions in just a couple of moments. But before we do that, Rob and I are going to do as we do many days. We're going to sit here and now take a quick 4-minute break where we're going to give ourselves a chance to rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, go refill our drinks, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom if you will. So if you will hang tight with us, guys, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. We decided to jump back in a little bit early because I got my drink faster than I normally do. So let's not waste any more time, and let's dive right into your live questions. And we're going to start things off here with the Fandom Menace, writes, I love to hate. I hate modern Star Wars. I hate modern Star Trek. I hate SJW Marvel. Hate, hate, hate. I want you to hate what I hate, or I'll hate you too. Join the Fandom Menace and spread the hate like a virus. Damn that Brie Larson. Grr. All right. Well, thanks for saying that in, man. Listen, hey, look, there are all different types of fan communities. There are all different types of fan communities. And, you know, one of the great things about being fans is that we get to, you know, get together online sometimes with like-minded people, whether it's things that we commonly like or commonly don't like. And so there's all types of things. So that's fine. Listen, the one thing that I'll never understand, though, as a film fan, I will never understand the need to try to get other people to dislike what you dislike. I'll never understand that. Like, for instance, I don't like Assassin's Creed, right? I don't like the Michael, why am I forgetting Michael's last name? Michael Fassbender's Assassin's Creed. I don't like it. But if other people like it, that's awesome. Yay! And I'm not going to spend my time trying to talk you into not liking it. I'm not going to spend my time thinking, because I think, you know, a lot of times we as people feel like, my opinion of something isn't validated unless I get other people to dislike it too. And I'll just never understand that. Like, I don't like The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, but if you do, great. Thumbs up. I don't like Titans. Okay, but if you do, that's awesome. I don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But if you do, that's awesome. Like, I'll never get the notion that if you don't like something, this inherent need to try to get others to not like it too. Or what I don't get it. I don't understand it. I never will. But hey, but as far as like different fan communities go, like I said, there are a lot of different types of fan communities, all shapes and sizes, and all of them bring some form of value to themselves as a fan community. So hey, different strokes for different folks. All right, let's move on to the next one here. The next one comes to us from Joseph Slade, who writes, Leo did win for Best Supporting Actor. That's true. I remember that afterwards. So yesterday I mentioned on the show that, you know, we were talking about the Dallas Buyers Club. Matthew McConaughey won best actor, and I said, you know, Jared Leto got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but it is true, he actually won for Best Supporting Actor, and I forgot that yesterday. I don't know why. Santez Henderson writes, "Where's my Moana 2? Damn it! I think they said they probably won't be doing a Moana 2, which is unfortunate because you're welcome. I love that movie, absolutely love it. All right, next one up. Daniel Rahimi writes, have you seen The Velocipaster yet on Amazon? It's so good, it's bad. It makes The Room look like The Godfather, but at least they knew what they were going for. It is hilarious. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, Rob, but dude, have you had a chance? And I've heard they're talking about doing a sequel to it even.
I've only seen the trailer, but maybe that was enough. But I mean, the trail, you know, if you haven't seen it, it's worth watching.
All right, listen, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I was totally fascinated by seeing it. It looks like maybe the greatest movie of all time. Okay, let's see here. Not Kevin Feige writes, recommendation, Salò or The 100 Days of Sodom. It's basically a metaphor for Italian politics at the time. I have not heard of these. Have you, Rob?
Oh, yes. Look, Salò, when I was growing up, was one of the most notorious movies ever. And it basically is about a bunch of fascists in the Italian countryside, and they round up all of the most beautiful young people and horribly abuse them. And they take them captive, and they do all kinds of nasty, nasty things. And it's definitely one of the most controversial, certainly one of the most unpleasant films I've ever seen. And it is out on Criterion. And I even own the Laserdisc of Salò, but I had sort of these film mentors when I was younger that would never show it to me. They had bootleg copies of it on videotape, and not until it played at our local Landmark Theater did I take me and all of my friends to go see Salò in a movie theater. And boy, I don't think people talked to me for like weeks afterwards.
All right, next up comes to us from Willow, who writes, Jared Leto did win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Dallas Buyers Club. I was excited when he was initially cast as Joker because he's such a committed actor. Both he and McConaughey lost so much weight for the roles. Yeah, listen, I remember a lot of people going, I don't like Jared Leto that much. I'm like, let me guess, you never saw Dallas Buyers Club, because a lot of people haven't. And I don't know if it's subject matter or whatever, but it doesn't look like it's a movie that would appeal to a broad base of people. It is a incredible movie, and the performances are not crazy good. And somebody wrote in yesterday, Rob, saying, I always kind of was mad that Leo didn't win the Academy Award that year, blah, blah. But then I finally saw Dallas Buyers Club, and I'm like, oh, that's why. Because McConaughey really was that good. But Jared Leto was also really just that good in it. And that's also why I was very excited. And you're right. He's committed to his role, but some people got kind of put off by how committed to his role he was playing Joker, like sending his fellow castmates like dead rats and things like that. Hey, method actors, man. Method actors. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, 1 of 2. If we are talking about cursed movies, you can't leave out the adaptation of A Confederacy of Dunces. It was first going to be made with John Belushi in 1982, then with John Candy in 94, and then with Chris Farley in 97. Then a version with Will Ferrell was looking promising until their filming location of New Orleans was hit by Hurricane Katrina. There understandably hasn't been any more word on it since. I'll be honest with you, Rob, I'm not even familiar with it. Off the top of my head, that doesn't ring any bells for me. Are you familiar with this? And is it as, because that sounds like a cursed list, Ryan. Rob, what are you thinking of it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I would have to delve into this further.
But I would say, Ryan, it sounds pretty legit. That sounds like a cursed movie. That just sounds like it's a movie. Listen, this is clearly never going to happen, and just move on from it, lest other natural disasters happen. So I think you're right on about that. All right, next up, Colin writes, I always thought Justin Timberlake was a really good actor. The movies I thought he was really good in was Alpha Dog. He was all right in that. Social Network, I actually didn't think he was all that great in Social Network. And Friends with Benefits, he was playing Justin Timberlake in that. I thought it showed really emotional range in that, with Richard Jenkins playing his dad with Alzheimer's. Probably meant Alzheimer's.
I love that movie.
The Friends with Benefits?
I have it on Blu-ray.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. There are movies I really like where I don't necessarily love all the performances that are in them, right? And I think like something like Alpha Dog, where I thought Justin Timberlake was okay. And I thought in Social Network, while I love the movie, I thought he was pretty one-dimensional in that. Listen, I am a big fan, actually, of Justin Timberlake as an overall entertainer. I'm actually legitimately a pretty big fan. I wasn't before. My wife made me get more into Justin Timberlake because Justin Timberlake is like on my wife's list. Everybody's got their list. Justin Timberlake's on my wife's list. But I really did get into, and he's so good in his just little fun comedy, like whether it's doing stuff with Lonely Island or whether it's when he's hosting Saturday Night Live. He's actually a great Saturday Night Live host. He's really good when he's on Saturday Night Live. But I got to be honest, I have never, as big of a fan as I am of him, I've never actually thought he's that good of an actor. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's the worst. I just never thought he was that good. But Rob, I'm curious to know your thought on that because, he is in The Social Network, and that is like one of your favorite movies. So what do you think about Justin Timberlake as an actor?
It really depends on what he's doing. Like, I have loved him. I loved him singing in Inside Llewyn Davis. When he sings with Adam Driver and Oscar Isaac, he sings that song, Hey, Mr. Kennedy, which I can never get enough of. I could watch that clip forever. I loved him in Friends with Benefits. I did. I did. And as Sean Parker in The Social Network, I mean, he gets that line, what's cool? $1 billion.
Yeah.
And
million dollars is cool. What's cool? $1 billion.
Yeah, he's so good. And the Sean Parker show, there are some actors who play these roles and I want them to be the role they're playing, in real life. And him, Justin Timberlake, I love him as Sean Parker, but Friends with Benefits, that whole movie, there's something about it that I really love it. As far as rom-coms go, the same way I like the movie like Age of Adeline, that was kind of off the beaten path. I really liked Friends with Benefits a lot. I thought he was really good in it, and I really just enjoyed it. And he was what he was supposed to be. And there's something, he can be a little flat. He can be a little flat, but I think when he's properly directed, there's just something about him that I find appealing.
Now, he was in that with the voice of Meg from Family Guy and from That 70s Show. Mila Kunis. He was in that with Mila Kunis. It was funny because that movie came out relatively close to another exact same theme movie called No Strings Attached.
Yes.
With Natalie Portman and Ashton Kutcher, right? Relative. I'll say this. I think Friends with Benefits was the better of the two. I'll give you that. I thought it was the better of the two. And wasn't Woody Harrelson in one of those two as well? I think Woody Harrelson was like a gay best friend in one of those.
Yeah, he's in Friends with Benefits.
Friends with Benefits is like the gay best friend. That's right.
Yeah, and now here's the thing. I don't think Friends with Benefits is like the greatest movie in the world, but I'll tell you what I Friends with Benefits and Hitch are that could be a double bill I could watch.
I like Hitch.
I mean, they're both these New York movies that are sort of buoyant and fun, and they're not real deep, but they're just fun. I mean, to me, they're comfort movies. The same way I love The Holiday. I don't know what this. Maybe I'm revealing too much on this show today, John. But I those two movies, Hitch and Friends with Benefits, they're both happy films. They have they make me feel all warm inside. I like the eclectic cast, and they just make me happy. What can I say?
All right, next up, what do we got here? We have an anonymous viewer writes in. One character I would like to punch in film, whoever is responsible for training Imperial officers in Star Wars. On Endor, he had one job, keep the shield up. Not becoming stew for the ferocious throw rugs, Ewoks. Don't hate Ewoks, just incompetent officers. That's a good one. And listen, the other day, too, this comes from somebody asked a question, I think it was yesterday, asked, if there's a movie character you'd really just want to punch in the face. I went Wormtongue. I mean, if maybe without more, but every second that dude's on screen, I just want to punch him in the face. That's one to me. But that's one. Whoever's responsible, number one, for training Imperial officers. Number two, for training marksmanship to the stormtroopers, of course. That's another one, anonymous. All right, next up, Andrew M. writes, Dr. Strangelove, 2001, A Space Odyssey, Psycho, and Godfather, all for the first time this week. Unbelievable. That's awesome. Enjoyed all of them. What a great week. Enjoyed all of them in that order, but none make my favorite movies of all time. In my opinion, the 2001 visuals look better than Star Wars and came 9 years earlier, so why does Star Wars get more credit? I disagree. Also, Rob, the visual effects in Star Wars are better, but the thing is, there was a lot more kinetic movement in the visual effects needed for Star Wars. Like a lot of the visual effects in Space Odyssey were very, is it fair to say static? I mean, a lot of them were very static, especially when you talk about the space stuff. How would you break that down?
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right about that. Look, the visual effects for 2001, which, by the way, Stanley Kubrick, I believe, won an Oscar. He gets credit for designing those, even though Douglas Trumbull, worked on those too. But yeah, they're static. I mean, the visuals for 2001 are really supporting what space travel was like. I mean, they're not dynamic. They're not supposed to make you go, wow, cool. They're supposed to convey sort of the beauty, the elegance, also how long space travel and how difficult it actually is, how lonely it's going to be. And no one had ever seen visual effects. They were really trying to create peak verisimilitude, that I always like to say, whereas Star Wars pioneered techniques we'd never seen before, such as motion control on that level. I mean, being able to repeat passes with models so you could make them move in dynamic fashion by having a computer do multiple passes, controlling the camera. So there was other, like the Dijkstraflex camera that was created for Star Wars. So I think the whole intent, even though they both take place in space, the intent from the effects for Star Wars was groundbreaking on so many levels, and the visual effects were doing so many more ambitious things than 2001. Why? Maybe not ambitious, but just more dynamic, I should say. Both were very ambitious, but I think they both accomplished what they needed to accomplish, and Star Wars the effects in Star Wars were leaps and bounds beyond what they were doing in 2001. But I mean, 2001 had a 65-foot, something like a 65-foot model of the Discovery, something like that. I mean, it was insane. And I think the elegance and the beauty inherent in the effect shots in 2001 are very different than what Star Wars was going for. But let's face it, John, I think the single most influential effect shot of all time comes in the beginning of Star Wars, the first shot of the movie.
Yeah.
It's a single shot, panning down onto Tatooine, and then the
Star Destroyer coming overhead. It's one of the most memorable things. But hey, that doesn't mean you can't have preferred the aesthetic of one over the other. I just personally disagree that I do think because of all the advancements in what they were doing with visual effects in Star Wars, has that one up ahead of it. But that's just my opinion. All right, an anonymous viewer writes, you have no idea the physical toll three vasectomies have on a person from what a lot of people, not necessarily my number one, but from what a lot of people consider maybe being the number one episode of The Office of all time. Mine might be Scott's Tots, is The Dinner Party. Said by Michael Scott, talking to Jan, and absolutely one of the most hilarious moments in television. You have no idea the physical toll 3 vasectomies have on a person. Anyway, Ice Melbad writes, 5 underrated movies in my opinion. Number 5, Man of Steel, obviously. Number 4, We Brought a Zoo. That's not a bad little movie, actually. Number 3, Paper Towns. Not a bad little movie. Number 2, Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I actually didn't like that movie. I didn't hate it, but I actually didn't like that one. Number 1, Earth to Echo. Also, has Anne seen the breakdancing video? Nope, and never will she ever be permitted to see any of there's like one breakdancing videotape. You got to understand, back in the day when I was breakdancing, we did not all carry around global communication audio visual recording devices like we do today. Like if you were going to film something, you had to get this big VHS camera that you'd have, which my family did have one. As a matter of fact, my family did have one. But you had one of these big monster cameras and stuff like that. So very, very little video exists of that day and era. So there's that. All right. Dorky Dino writes, 1 of 2. You say Ralph Fiennes is the greatest actor alive today not to have an Oscar on his mantle. That's my personal opinion, yes. But who do you think is the greatest actress alive today that has never won an Oscar? Also, who's the greater actor / actress who's never been nominated? I can't answer that because I would have to have a list in front of me and do some research in that. Amy Adams comes to mind, though, when it comes to the actresses who have never won an Academy. Oh, sorry. Let's get on to 2 of 2 first, though. For me, Amy Adams. Amy Adams and Glenn Close are the 2 greatest actresses who've never won. John Goodman and Idris Elba are the 2 best actors who've never won. For actress, I'll go for Ellie Fanning, though she's got a lot more to do. But although I'm biased because she's my biggest celeb crush. Rob, I often go to, I go Ralph Fiennes. Once, he won his Academy Award for playing Winston Churchill recently. The actor who's the best out there in the world today, I believe, without an Oscar on his mantle, I believe is Ralph Fiennes. But if you were to answer that, best actor without an Oscar, best actress without an Oscar, who do you go with?
Well, we talked about Ralph Fiennes the other day, and I've got great love for Ralph Fiennes, English Patient. I love him as Lenny Nero in Strange Days. So I would say that Ralph Fiennes is definitely an actor to look at. But I think I love James Spader, but he's mostly in TV now. But as an actress, gosh, I don't know. Amy Adams is probably a good bet. I need a list. I can't. I'm kind of drawing a blank on. There's so many.
I'm just trying to get a pull up here, get a handle on how many times she's been nominated, because I know she's been nominated at least.
I mean, Glenn Close has never won, right?
I believe Glenn Close has never won.
Close.
She was nominated for the one she did with Michael Douglas.
She's nominated for like 8. She's been nominated like 8 times. And it was Fatal Attraction. I mean, I think she was nominated for World According to Garp.
That was it.
I mean, I love Glenn Close is one of my favorite actresses. I've had a crush on her since The Big Chill. I've loved her since World According to Garp. I would love to see her win an Oscar.
Amy Adams has been nominated 6 times. Supporting actress for Junebug in 2005. Supporting actress for Doubt in 2008. Supporting actress for The Fighter in 2010. Supporting actress for The Master in 2012. Best Lead Actress for American Hustle in 2013, and most recently, Best Supporting Actress in Vice in 2018. And Glenn Close has a big thing too. So yeah, now, but as far as the question about actors or actresses who don't even have a nomination, that's something I can't answer the top of my head.
Yeah,
that's something we would have to have some time to go into a little bit more in depth and see what's up with that. Okay, let's move on here. Next, Tyler Yeats writes, if you could compare yourself to one TV or movie character, who would you compare yourself to and why? I don't know. Have a great day, Friday. Love the show, and thanks for keeping this up during these times. It is my pleasure, Tyler. I don't know. That's not something I walk around off the top of my head with a TV character. I don't know. Maybe Michael Scott, because I have the social awkwardness of Michael Scott, I guess. Maybe. But just not nearly as funny. So that's one. But other than that time, that's something I would need some thought time. That's something I would need to have a little bit of leeway time to think about, because I don't walk around thinking about that. But it's an interesting question nonetheless. I don't know if you guys had to compare me to a TV character. Who would you compare me to? Man, this is going to be cruel. Who would you compare me to as a TV character? Let me know. All right, Russell Amador writes, hey, John, Thursday quarantine movie night consisted of the good old 2008 classic Tropic Thunder. You know what? I haven't watched that in a while. I got to watch it again. Wow, forgot how funny that movie was. Come to think of it, I doubt the world we live in now that they can make that movie like that in 2020. I disagree. Somebody actually asked that specific question a few weeks ago, saying, do you think they could actually make it Tropic Thunder? I absolutely think they could make that movie today. Absolutely. Because the sarcasm in the humor is evident, right? The sarcasm in the humor is evident. So yes, I still 100% believe that they would absolutely and could absolutely make Tropic Thunder the way they made it then today, because it was done with such tongue firmly planted in cheek that I think that became evident and obvious. So no, I don't think they would have a problem making that today. All right, John S. writes, shout out to Tyler E. I'm watching 1917 tonight for the first time, thanks to him posting his digital copy code on the Facebook group I snagged. I've been waiting for it to go on sale for $10, as I don't need to buy now. I'm giving to you. Thank you, John, for this movie community. Well, hey, thank you, John S. And I'm glad you're liking 1917. It just one of the most phenomenal movies of the past year, and I'm glad you're having a chance to get in on that. And thank you for being a Patreon supporter and being a member of our Facebook group, man. I really appreciate that, John. All right, Jesse Price writes, hey, John and crew, just wanted to say thank you for everything you guys do. Oh, thank you so much, man. Listen, Rob and I, we'll even talk about this when we're just talking away from the show. It is such an incredible pleasure and honor for us to be able to get on here, talk about the things we love, and talk about, the films and the film fan community and all this kind of stuff. So Jesse, I appreciate the kind words, and thank you for being a part of making this community what it is. So thank you so much for that. All right, Josie Reviews writes, is the LumaFusion app and desktop the same? Well, here's the thing. For those of you who don't know, LumaFusion is a remarkable video editing app for iOS, for the iPad, and you can use it on your iPhone, I think, although I don't know why you would. It is a remarkable video editor. It's incredible. I use it quite a bit. To the best of my knowledge, there is no desktop app for it. I believe it is exclusively for tablets and phones. So I could be wrong about that, but I believe it is exclusively for tablets and phones. All right, Orange Hand writes, ever heard of the 2001 motion comic Broken Saints? I can't say I have. Rob, have you heard of that comic?
Broken Saints?
Broken Saints, 2001 motion comic.
If it's a motion comic, no.
Yeah,
yeah.
I gotta admit, I'm not familiar with that one either. All right. Canada Rocks writes, on Thursday, Sony announced that the May 29th release of The Last of Us 2 game has been delayed indefinitely due to the pandemic. This was my most anticipated release of 2020. That includes any film or TV show. But this is what's confusing to me. Why? It's not like you have to go out and play it in an arena. It's not like you have to go out to a store to buy it. You can just digitally download it. Unless they're saying it's delayed because I had heard the game was done. So unless they're like the game was not done and they had to close down their offices and they can't finish it. But other than that, why on earth would you delay the release of a game? You don't need to go out into a communal experience to play it. Rob, do you have any thoughts on this?
No. Unless they're just not ready, there's a bug. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of is like, because I had heard they were done, but maybe they weren't. If they weren't done, I get it. But other than that, I don't understand the logic there because we're all home. You download it to your system at home, so I don't get it. All right, Brandon writes, "Hey, John, while I've been stuck at home, I've been rewatching some old but gold John Campea Show moments. One of my favorite was the time when you discussed those ridiculous subverting expectations comments about Barney the dinosaur. Yeah, that one will still go down to me, Rob, as one of the most dumb things I've ever heard a studio or a company executive say. You know, we're going to surprise by subverting the expectations of our audience. Talking about a Barney the dinosaur movie. That is still to this day one of the dumbest things I have ever heard. It's going to be a Barney movie. It's not going to subvert expectations. But thanks for that, Brandon. I'd forgotten about that one. All right, Nightspeed writes, when you realize John Wick is a Desperado remake. Well, I mean, listen, there's definitely some thematic similarities. There's no doubt there are some thematic similarities, but I don't think it's as similar as, say, like the first Fast and the Furious was to Point Break, which was a deliberate, like, plot point by plot point, beat by beat ripoff. But there are some thematic similarities, but I don't think that type. Okay, AAA Burbank writes, during quarantine in a span of 2 days, my girlfriend and I watched Vertigo, Rear Window, Rope, Spanglish, Mystery Men, My Cousin Vinny, and currently 6 episodes in on The Wire. Nice. Dang, The Wire has us hooked. And all the movies mentioned gave have been great. Thanks, John. Rob, those are some tremendous titles right there. When you're talking about Vertigo, Rear Window, Spanglish, Mystery Men, Cousin Vinny, watching The Wire, what stands out to you the most out of that list there?
I just like that they went from Vertigo, Rear Window, and Rope to Spanglish. You know, you go from some classic Hitchcock to Spanglish. And you know what's great about that? That's the power of movies, John. That's the power of movies. And that's what great movie entertainment can provide. Diversity of experience. And I think it's fantastic. Great
Awesome.
list.
Great list, AAA. It's good use of your time, too, my friend. All right, Joe Slade writes, would recommend This Is England and the 3 TV series that followed. Truly some of the best acting and writing you'll see on TV, with one of the most powerful performances from Stephen Graham. Warning, very dark and graphic, so might not be for everybody. Rob, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not familiar with this franchise or this series. Are you?
I know This Is England. I've never seen it. I know of it, but I've never seen it. So... You know,
I'm gonna assume This Is England is a UK show of some sort, so like a BBC show or something like that. But hey, Joe, that's one of the great things about this show, Joe. People dropping these recommendations of things we've never even heard about, and now it's on not just our radar, but everybody watching's radar. So thanks for bringing that one up, Joe. Appreciate that, man. All right, Mr. TJ Lin writes, one of two. I'm an Asian dude with Chinese grandparents, but I grew up outside of China. I never liked martial arts films. I don't know why. I like high caliber drama like 12 Angry Men, Lawrence of Arabia, and The Godfather. God bless your soul, TJ. My friends all call me a whitewashed person because I idolize white actors and adore white movies. In reality, I never care about the skin pigmentation of the actors and movies I adore. I'm just not into Jackie Chan or Jet Li or their films. Well, listen, first of all, you love what you love, dude. You love what you love. Like, just because I'm Italian doesn't mean I'm supposed to like Italian opera, whatever. I don't. Just because I'm Italian doesn't mean I'm going to like soccer or whatever types of things you associate with Italian culture. I do admit I am a glutton for pasta. Yes, I live up to the stereotype in that way. But other than that, don't let that define you or what you love in your pop culture entertainment. You love what you love, and if people give you a hard time with it, just shut them out or shut them up. You know, you love what you love, and you go with it. Those are some great, great movies, man, that you just listed. Like whether you're talking about Lawrence of Arabia, Godfather, 12 Angry Men, things like that. Guess what? Not everybody's going to like Jackie Chan. There's a bunch of Italian comedians that I think suck that a bunch of other people say, but you're supposed to be Italian. I don't give a fuck about that. I like what I like. I'm super proud to be Italian, but it doesn't mean I have to like everything that's associated with Italian stereotypes or Italian culture. Not at all. So you do you, TJ. You do you, and let the rest of them shut the F up. All right, let's move on here.
Can I just add something? I want to tell TJ that TJ, I'm a middle class or a middle-aged white dude, and I want to be Tony Leung. My man Tony Leung, who's one of my favorite Chinese actors. He is so rad. He was awesome in Hard Boiled, John Woo's Hard Boiled. I loved him in Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love, and he's going to appear in Shang-Chi. So,
yes, he is.
I mean, I want to be him. So you tell your friends who call you whitewash, you say you know a white dude who wants to be Asian. How about that?
All right, let's move on here. Bames John writes, just saw Christopher Meloni is returning to his role as Elliot Stabler in a new Law & Order spinoff. Meloni is great, and I always wanted him back. The new show is him leading his own unit, though. Yeah, first of all, I never watched Law & Order. There was called, what was he in? Law & Order Special Victims Unit? Is that what the one he was in? I used to watch a lot of Law & Order. I did. Because I like courtroom drama stuff. I just do. So I used to watch a lot of Law & Order, but I never did watch any of the other Law & Order spin-off series. Now, of course, if I'm not mistaken, Christopher Meloni, he's also the guy who he was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, wasn't he? Wasn't he the hockey mask dude? Okay, you know what? I got to look this
Christopher,
up.
No, that's Ilias Koteas.
You're right. Sorry.
A good Canadian kid, John.
Yes. I thought that, but listen, as an actor, you see him pop up all over the place and always great, but I got to admit, I never watched the original one he was in, so I don't have a lot of interest in the spinoff, although I did see that he's coming back to lead his own show. Rob, did you ever watch any of these? Because I know you like a good courtroom drama as well, but did you ever watch any of these shows?
Yeah, SVU is, I like SVU. It's lurid, ripped out of the headlines. But I the SVU, it is, whenever I watch, I mean, I'm a sucker for police procedurals and also courtroom procedurals, and the Law and Order shows are you get the best of both worlds. So whenever they're on or if I'm home, I would watch that stuff. But SVU is probably my favorite of the Law and Order shows.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot it was Elias that played that, because Elias is also in one of the few shows that I watched today, which is actually Chicago PD. He was in that. His character got killed off, but he was in that, and I used to love him in that show, so I can't believe I got those two guys confused there. All right, let's move on here. Let's see. Slim Trav writes, please do a Cats watch along and review. That's not going to happen. I'll say that right now, Slim Trav. That's not going to happen. But you know what we do got to do here soon? We're probably going to do it on Monday. We did the watch along party with Avengers Infinity War, and everybody seems to have had a lot of fun doing that. So we're going to do another one on Monday. I'll put up a poll on my Twitter asking you guys which I'll put up like 4 different movies, say which one should we do a watch along party for on Monday, and then we'll do that one Monday afternoon. We'll do another watch along, a Netflix party watch Monday afternoon, because apparently I know I had a lot of fun doing it. I think a lot of you guys had fun too. Captain Chicken Pants writes, do you think the fascination with canon is killing the way we value stories? If you like worlds, characters a certain way, fine, but it shouldn't be the be-all, end-all to your investment in them either. It all depends, Captain Chicken Pants. Look, Star Wars was always very firmly committed to canon, so that's one thing. X-Men very much were not committed to canon. That's one of the reasons why I like standalone movies, that they allow storytellers to step outside of the thing and break free of any of the shackles they have to be a little bit more creative in their storytelling. But I don't believe everything needs to be 100% committed to canon, but I believe some things maybe should be if that's what they've established themselves as. So it really depends, but you see a lot of these film franchises take some liberties with that. Anthony Lucalano writes, just finished watching the Villainess. The action scenes were insanely good and definitely recommend this South Korean revenge thriller. I love the title. I have not seen it. Rob, I've got...
No,
Oh, really? I was about
either.
to say I had a feeling that you've seen it, but you haven't seen this one either.
No, but I'll tell you something. It sounds good to me.
I love the title. It sounds like sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and stuff like that. So the Villainess. Okay, do me a favor, Anthony. Share just in the live chat where people can find it. If that's on Netflix, that sounds like something I may want to check out. All right, Brandon writes, hi, John. Disney Plus has recently added the X-Men as profile pics for their user accounts. Some people think this could signify a start to the X-Men in the MCU on Disney Plus. What are your thoughts? This is my thoughts. We are always way too desperate to find hidden meaning in things. We are always way too desperate to find hidden meaning in things. Look, Disney now owns the catalog of Fox movies. that means X-Men. We're going to see at some point X-Men movies popping up on Disney Plus. And I mean the original X-Men movies. Those are going to start making their way over whenever their distribution rights. For all I know, maybe a couple of them already are. As a matter of fact, I think the X-Men original cartoon series is already on Disney Plus, I believe. So it's one of their properties. We know Marvel is going to be getting into X-Men at some point. And listen, just like there are Avengers who are getting some Disney Plus stuff, like Vision, Wanda, all that kind of stuff. There are big screen Avengers that are going to have there's Avengers material on Disney Plus. Guess what? There's going to be, the X-Men is like 500 characters. It's like hundreds of characters, Rob. So yes, obviously, the moment they announced they were taking over Fox and that there was going to be Disney Plus, everybody knew at some point there's going to be some X-Men related material on Disney Plus. That's a no duh, but I do not think them launching, giving Avatar options is a sign that they're about to announce an X-Men Disney Plus show. It doesn't exclude it either. Let's be clear. Don't misquote me. It doesn't exclude the possibility, but it doesn't actually mean anything because they own the X-Men property. So I don't think there's anything to see there. Rob, is there anything to see here?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just another thing that they own. Why not utilize it in an interesting, unique way? So I don't think it necessarily means anything.
Yeah, no hidden meaning there. Okay, Darth Impact writes, 1 of 3. Have you guys ever heard a song and in your mind goes right to a scene from a movie? Well, I'm a SC. Don't know what that means. Some songs, and I'll guess the movie, okay? 2 of 3. Shake It Up, Baby by the Beatles.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, of course. And Schnepp is in that scene.
Yes, he is.
John Schnepp is in that scene, actually. Let's see. Darth Impact also says, hint, it's from 2 movies. Well, I'm not sure what the other one would be. Yeah. But by the way, it's probably in a lot more.
By the way, it's Twist and Shout.
Yeah, Shake It Up, Baby, now Twist and Shout. It's probably in a lot more than just 2 movies. It's probably in a hell of a lot more than just 2 movies. And then Stuck in the Middle with You. Well, that one's easy. That's Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
When I think of one, Rob, like right now, like there are a lot of songs that make me think of movies in general. Like whenever I hear the Bryan Adams song, Everything I Do It For You, my head gets filled with images from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I mean, so there's a lot of songs that do that, but for specific scenes, the only one I can think of off the top of my head is the Immigrant Song for Thor. I mean, that instantly jumps to mind. Do you have a song, Rob, that when it pops up, your mind instantly goes to a specific scene in a movie?
Well, old time rock and roll, Risky Business.
Oh, yeah, Risky Business.
Prince's DMSR is also another song from that movie that I really love. But in terms of other music, gosh, I don't know, the Immigrant Song, but the Immigrant Song is done by Karen O and from the beginning of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in David Fincher's remake of that.
Right.
The New Order remix that begins Blade when they're dancing in the blood party and the blood
rave.
It's a riff. Yeah, it's a riff that I really like. But when you start thinking about it, there's so many different the Neutron Dance from the beginning of Beverly Hills Cop.
I'm just going to burn the Neutron Dance.
The truck chase at the beginning. I mean, every time I hear that, I can't help but see Eddie Murphy swinging out of that truck and back into the truck. Yeah.
All right, let's keep things going here. Darth Impact writes, when things get back to normal, I would love Disney to make a live-action Gargoyles movie. Will it happen? I highly doubt it. And never say never. Everything is possible. All these studios are always looking for IP. I just don't think that's one that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it would happen. I know there's a small group of people that would love to see it. I don't see it ever happening. Point in fact, though, there was some movement on that about 3 or 4 years ago, and then it ultimately kind of sputtered and didn't go anywhere. So, hey, never say never, but I don't expect to see one happen. Joe Hill writes, Hey, John, have you seen that South by Southwest has partnered with Amazon Prime? I have seen this. According to South by Southwest's official website, to bring the film festival portion of the 2020 festival to Amazon Prime for free for all Americans. I think this is not only great for all the indie filmmakers who are going to debut their films at the festival, but I think ultimately could expose a portion of the population who don't typically watch indie films to the world of smaller filmmaking. What are your thoughts on this? Well, I want to throw this over to Rob, but I will say this just quickly. I don't think it's going to expose a lot of film fans to other indie films, because if they're people who aren't interested in indie films, they're not going to go out of their way to see the South by Southwest Indie Film Festival. But I think it's great for everybody else. Rob, you heard about this. I think this is a really good move myself. Not as good as having the actual event itself, but I think this is a pretty good move. What do you think about it?
Dude, I love this idea because I know what it's like having movies in film festivals and made films and submitted them to get into a South by Southwest or a Tribeca. And I know people who got into both this year, and to have those, you're elated. I mean, it means everything in the world to you as a filmmaker, especially like my Ben David Grabinski got his first feature and that he directed into Tribeca, and then it gets canceled. My friend Adrienne Biddle, she had a horror film in Tribeca, and then it goes away, and to have these films at least get seen and get acknowledged, I think is a wonderful thing, especially for these filmmakers. And I hope, because they're going to be online, that if they're promoted, normally you'd have to be at a film festival to see it, but now if they're going to show it worldwide, I don't know how they're going to deal with piracy issues and things like that. But I think it's tremendous that at least these films are being acknowledged, and these filmmakers who made these movies, who got these great honors to get into these festivals, are going to be recognized. And it's great that their films can be seen, although I would definitely worry about distribution in the future, and what does that mean for piracy? So we'll see.
Something for them to keep their eyes on. Good response to that, man. K Major writes, "Hey, John, hope your family back home is doing well. Stay safe, bro. John, like you, I love Star Wars since I was a kid. I think I wore out my VHS copy of Return of the Jedi. I own every film except the new trilogy. I'm now very apprehensive about owning them. Like you, I didn't like Rise of Skywalker, but I did like Force Awakens, and The Last Jedi was okay. I just told my wife that this will probably be the first Star Wars movie I won't own. Would you still buy this or any film that you didn't like, but just to complete the collection and get it?" Here's the reality. I have not bought Rise of Skywalker yet. I probably will, because here's the reality. I don't like the prequels. I don't like them at all. I mean, there are redeeming elements about them, but which I talk about often, but I don't like the prequels. But guess what? I own the prequels. I hate the Clone Wars movie, the animated Clone Wars movie. I hate that movie. I hate it. I own it. So the reality is, I will probably, even though I don't like Rise of Skywalker, the reality is I will probably end up getting Rise of Skywalker. Rob, I know you just got a 27 disc set of all the Star Wars movies. But what do you think of that question in general about, like, will you complete out like a film series, even if there's certain ones you don't enjoy? Will you just buy them anyway to have them?
Oh yeah, I mean, speaking of that, it's right there.
There you go, the 27 disc set.
There's the Skywalker box set, the Best Buy exclusive. Dude, I'm a James Bond fan. I don't love all the James Bond movies, but when that 50th anniversary box set came out with all the Bond films, you got to own them all. Star Trek movies. Do I love all the Star Trek movies? No. But if you're a Star Trek fan, I figure I have to have them, because even when they're not good, I've got to own them. I am a completist, and because I'm crazy. I own Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. I don't remember the last time I watched it, but I have it. It was right over here. Actually, it's in a box. Right, it used to be within grabbing range, but yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, I think there's something to be learned from movies. I've watched things. There's usually, even in the worst movies, well, maybe that's not always true, I try and find something to like about every film. There's something to learn. And even movies that aren't good, that don't work, I've watched again and again to figure out why they don't work. And I've learned from them. But if it's a series, I feel like I have to own the series. 'Cause like when I sit down someday and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch a Star Trek marathon, I'm not gonna like not watch Star Trek 5, even though I don't like it very much. You gotta watch it. I don't like Nemesis, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, for me, it's easier because I'm not really a physical media guy, so I just buy all the stuff digitally. So I just open up my Google Play Store and it's like, okay, yes, get that, and then I have it. So it's not as committed as you are, Rob, where you got to go out and make an effort to get those things and have them on your shelf. So yes. I salute that, sir. Okay, let's fire through as many as we can here really quick. I'm keeping Rob overtime. You don't mind? Do you got a few minutes, or do you got a few more minutes?
No, I'll stay.
All right, let's just fire through these then. Dino Barletta writes, hey, John, Rob, big fan of your shows. After the trailer hit yesterday to Train to Busan 2, I decided to watch the first film. It's brilliant. Seen it? Train to Busan. Actually, it's funny, Rob, you and I were just talking about it before we started the show today. Listen, in a genre I'm quite frankly tired of, which is zombie stuff. Train to Busan comes out and smacks you in the mouth. It's thrilling and exciting. It's got a terrific ending that we were just talking about. I really enjoyed Train to Busan. Just the little girl. Anyway, Rob, your thoughts on Train to Busan. Is it worth it for people to go out and check out?
Dude, it's so good. And I've always loved the zombie genre, and yes, it's kind of like played out, but that was a movie that it was really interesting because it was playing in theaters in LA, and I kept trying to go see it, but never could. Like, it was moving around to different theaters, and I didn't get to see it, and then I finally was able to, I bought the Blu-ray sight unseen, and I'm like, this movie better be as good as I hope. And boy, it exceeded my expectations. I loved it.
Yeah, it's great.
I can't wait to see Peninsula. That trailer looks bonkers. I'm like, hell yeah. Bring it on. Good.
Guys, if you haven't seen Train to Busan yet, I believe it's on Netflix right now. Go and check it out. I know it's on Amazon Prime, but I think it might be on Netflix as well. So go and check that out. Mark Badolato writes, hey, John, hope you're doing well. I am doing well, thank you. Been watching every day. Thank you for the positivity. Well, thanks for being here, Mark. We appreciate that, man. The other night, Frasier cast reunited on YouTube to help raise money for Actors Fund. Taxi Cast also did. Really? The Taxi Cast did that? Also did this, and other celebrities. Check Actors Fund YouTube and worth a watch. I didn't know about this, but I am definitely going to go check that out. I think that's great. And I loved Frasier. Oh, I love that Frasier. Okay, thanks for bringing that up, Mark. I appreciate. Thanks for putting that on our radar. Kevin Lewis writes, my pitch days ago on the John Campea Show, release movies like Wonder Woman 84 and Black Widow on VOD, pay-per-view as cliffhanger runs, acts 1 and 2 only, then release full when theaters are ready. You said people would lose their minds. I agree. If no lower third disclaimer, people without knowing going through thoughts. No, people would hate it. People would hate it.
Yeah.
Number one, people would hate it. You're not going to pay for one movie twice. You're not going to pay for a movie twice. It's like, really? I got to pay to watch part of it now, and then I have to pay again later to go and watch the next part of it? One movie? No. It's bad. It would not work for the studios. It would turn people off. Fans would riot. Because listen, if you're paying $15, 15, it'll be 20, 30 bucks, whatever. You're paying that much money, you're going to want to see the full movie. And it just, no, absolutely. Fans would not have it. The studios, it would not work for the studios. I don't see any way that I'll be honest with you, Kevin. You're trying to think outside the box, which is good. That's what more people need to do. More people need to do what you're doing, Kevin. You're trying to think outside of the box. But there's just so many pitfalls with that when I don't see it happening or don't see it working. Rob, is there some way something like that could work? Do you think?
No. No, I don't. I keep telling this story about how I went to an early screening of First Blood when it first came out. And they forgot to ship the final reel of the movie. And I was there with theater bookers. And I'm like, even these jaded theater guys were about ready to riot. Who wants to do that?
I agree. It's just not something that'll work. Hey, listen, guys, we're going to wrap things up here now. We only had a few minutes left, so we're just going to wrap up a little bit early. But listen, guys, there are still more questions to come. A bunch of you guys still have outstanding questions here. Kevin Lewis, Joe Slade, McKeel, and a few people more. Do not worry. I'm going to do a live companion video later this afternoon. I'm going to go live and do a live companion video later this afternoon, I think at about 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we will finish off all these questions that are still left to go, and we'll take a few more while we're doing the show as well. So your questions that you sent in, they're getting answered today. Keep your eyes open for it. All right, I want to thank Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett for being here. Rob, thanks for being here, dude. And where can people find you in the meantime online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Rob.
And a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it, and all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel. Thank you guys for that. Guys, stay safe, take care of yourselves, take care of each other's, be good, guys. Thanks a lot for being